Hey, Skylar here from the Mint Change You Can Wear. So it's Thursday, and that means question and answer time. There were quite a few interesting questions, things that I didn't even really think of. So thank you guys for everyone who left questions for me. All right, so let's get into it. So the first question I really want to address is, if you get a split in your coin ring, can you repair it? Or can you rejoin it? Rejoining it? No, I don't think so. I don't see a good way of rejoining it. Now, say you have a split in your coin ring. Is it garbage, or can you fix it, or what? So if the split isn't big enough yet, yes, you can. And I've repaired splits that have gone down this far, before. And what the deal is, basically, as far as that split goes down, so your bandwidth gets thinner as you go. So you're gonna have to bring the whole thing down to that height of that split. So what I would do here is just file this thing to get down below the split so it won't split further. And then once I'm done with that, then I'd take it onto a bench grinder or something like that, and then grind the whole thing flat again down to that level. So that's basically how I would deal with that. Sometimes you don't even have to grind it down to that level if it's small enough. You can just file the thing down, and then you won't really notice that it's been messed with. So there's the deal with the splits. So another great question that I got is, what do you do with all the coin centers? Well, if you're talking about non-silver coin centers, I save them in jars like this because I can't throw them away. I don't know what the heck to do with those things, but I can't seem to throw them away. I've used a bunch of them for art projects or melted them down to do some casting. And let me tell you, copper is a lot harder to melt than silver too, by the way. So that's what I do. I save them, and I don't do anything else with them. When it comes to the silver, though, what I do with those is I save them, I save them a little thing like that, and then when I get over, and this thing is 1.04 troy ounces. That's why that's on there, so I can weigh it. But when I get over about 10, 15 ounces, something like that, I take it down to my local refinery down here. The place I go to, I'm near Portland, so there's a couple options, I believe, down in Portland. And the place I go to is AAA Precious Metals. And what they do, because I don't melt these coins, if you were to melt the coins now, they don't want to touch them, because they think you could be melting down jewelry or something like that, and they won't touch it. And when I first started doing this, I was using a lathe to cut my hole, and I found out that was a real pain in the butt and a real waste of time. But anyway, what I did is I had a lot of shavings, so I melted them all down and I had like a 10 or 12 ounce ingot that I had made, like a nice ingot. And when I went in there for it, the guy says, "Hey, we don't take any backyard stuff. Sorry, man." And I was like, "Oh," so there's 12 ounces of silver. But anyway, so once we got a working relationship, they finally did take it. They just were worried that it was stolen. But anyway, so you bring that stuff down there in coin form still. They can still see that all those are US coins, and they know the purity of them. And they have machines that test that kind of thing too. So you take these down there and they'll give you the melt value for the 90% silver or 40% or whatever other kind of purity you're bringing in. And I believe they charge me 8 to 15%, something like that, for the service, which really isn't too bad. If you take it to, a secondary market like a pawn shop or a coin store or something like that buys jewelry, you're going to get pennies on the dollar for that. So find yourself a local refinery if you can. If there's not a refinery near you, there's places that you can actually ship it off to. So do some research there. But that's what I do with the coin centers. So another good question I got is, what kind of a torch do I use? What kind of a fuel do I use? I'm sure people use different fuels, but what I use is just the easiest for me, which is propane. It's an easy thing to get a hold of, and the type of burner that I use, this is an older beat-up version. I've used really big ones that I got at Harbor Freight. I've used really pinpoint small ones that I've got at like Lowe's or I've had hanging around the house. And the big brushy ones are actually nice, but they're harder to control in the fact that you're using a lot of fuel because it's a big burner. And it tends to heat things up a little too quickly because of the lack of control there. And then when it comes down to a smaller pinpoint one, you can make those work, but also the problem with those is you can heat up one spot really quickly because it's a little tiny pinpoint flame. And as long as you keep it moving, you can use it. It'll be okay, but you gotta be really careful not to overheat, especially like the 64 Kennedys. Those are the ones that are really problematic. This particular one I found is like right in the butter zone for me. It's not too big and brushy, and it's not pinpoint, and it actually works great. As a rule of thumb, you don't want a super focused flame. So this one isn't quite focused. and it doesn't use a whole ton of fuel either, so you're not going to overheat them quickly. And it has a level of control that I really like. So I use propane, and I really go middle of the road, not too pinpoint, not too big of a flame. But you do want it a more spread out flame for sure. So hopefully that answers your question there, but that's what I use. So the last question I'm going to fit into this question and answer this week is actually a one that I was not expecting someone was going to ask, but it's a really important question if you're going to be selling these coin rings online especially. And that is, how do you take good pictures and what kind of lighting do you use for taking pictures of your coin rings? And I have to tell you the honest truth, I am not a photographing expert at all. You really want indirect lighting, and this is my own interpretation, but what I do is I take my pictures right here on my desk, and I only take pictures in the daytime, and I only do it with indirect light. So right here next to my desk I have a French door that goes to the outside, and that lets in a lot of light. And what I was doing before is I was closing the curtain so that way I would get rid of all that direct lighting, and then I would take my pictures like that. But I found these curtains really don't let enough light in, really, for my liking. And another thing, the orange from the curtains tends to color my coin rings orangey, goldy looking. And also the color of the wood on the table has done that in the past. And I know people have had misunderstandings about, well, I thought this ring was going to be more gold colored or whatever. And that was just because what's being reflected onto the coin. So what I've been doing since then is I've been leaving that curtain open. So what I have been doing is taking a regular piece of paper and then folding it like that, and then like that, and then opening it up, and then cutting it right there. And so what I do is I fold these two pieces together like that and make myself like a little light room. And then I tape it all together, and then if there's still too much direct light coming in, I'll put a little top of paper over it so it's in the shade. And that way you have pure white light, and you get a lot of light coming from the window because it's sunlight outside. And anything that's being reflected onto the coin is white, so that way there's no misunderstanding on what the hue of the coin really is. And it really helps make the contrast pop in the coin too. But my favorite time to take pictures is when it's overcast. The overcast lighting really works great. And I even like taking some pictures outside so there's like a little bit of a green background or something. But that's the way I do it. Alright, well that's about it for question and answer this Thursday. I did have some other questions that some people were asking about how to make smaller sizes, specifically when it comes to half dollars and then also quarters. So I'm going to see if I can't do a dedicated video just about smaller sizes in the next few days. If you guys have any questions for next Thursday, be sure to email me at skylarjenkins57@gmail.com. I'm going to have that link in the description box below. And also, if you guys were interested in looking at any of my completed rings for sale, check out changeyoucanwear.net. All right, till next week, guys. Thank you.